I don't know if anybody knows that. Oh, yeah, there we go.
There, rolling.
Threesome, our little heads together. We have to back up here so we're not just... So, here we go. Okay, so Connie Reguli, introduce yourself.
Sarah Brown.
And Marie Santos.
So Sarah and Marie got up all the way. What time did you guys get up this morning?
I got up at 4 Eastern.
I got up at 1:30 Central Standard Time.
Oh my gosh, a.m. that would be. So they drove all the way here from East Tennessee. So many times I've asked people, I'm like, you got to get up. You got to go out and you got to talk to people. You got to do it. You've just got to do it. So, no, not right now. We got things to talk about. Okay, so Sarah and Maria have just been like, we're just going to do it. So they came down here. We were down here the 26th. Did you guys come another day, or is this your next?
The day after.
Yes.
27th.
Okay, so I came down on the 26th and I spoke. I just stopped in the clerk's office today, and they're going to get me the official video from that. I know I videotaped myself and posted it. It was kind of hard to hear the questions, and so I'm getting the official video, and I'll be posting that. The other reason that I came back down today is because during that session, they had kind of asked me some specific questions about the children being abused for neglect, about the amount of money, et cetera, et cetera. So I put together a booklet. I made 8 booklets. I don't have any left because we gave all of them away today. So we went with these booklets. I took and I will... I have, of course, the original at home, so I'll show you guys what it is. But I tried to make notes about the questions that they had asked me, and I wanted to be able to answer them. So, I researched, and I found the supporting documents for it, and then I put together a booklet. So we took that.
It was amazing.
Yeah, so thank you. So I took it to every committee member. So in the... for the Children and Family Committee in Tennessee, it is Iris Rudder, Jason Potts, Johnson. What's Representative Johnson's first name? Do you remember? Representative Johnson, Jeremy Faison, Mary Littleton. There's one more. Who's the? Curcio. So I made all 6 of them a booklet. If I was able to personally hand it out to most of them, and if they weren't there, I gave it to their assistant. But I don't just leave it. I stop and I tell them, sit down. I tell them what it is. I show them certain things in it so that they can just hand it to them. Because what happens here is people walk in, lay things down on their desk, and they can't read all that. So I try to be more personal about it. It shows, and plus it's something that I've worked to put together. It's not just a piece that's like a brochure that's put together by a big PR agency or a big marketing firm. It's something that I've researched for them, and every one of them I kind of say, by the way, if you have any questions, ask me, because I've already researched almost every question that you could possibly ask. So, and I have stacks and stacks and stacks of information. I have the information that's turned over to Congress. It's just so amazing how they really don't even understand the funding situation with Title 4E and Title 4B, and they're just like so confused.
What shocks me is here we have people up here representing us at our Capitol that don't have a clue about any of this stuff, and their DCS is kind of just sneaking right in.
Yeah, they
and
are.
That is unbelievable to me. And then when you try to tell them, they're like, no, because that just doesn't sound right.
Yeah, so by the way, we were up here talking about child well reform, and they just, and DCS turns it around to their benefit, and like, we need more money. We need more money, because they know the legislature controls the purse strings. And so they get $5 million more dollars.
Yes, we heard they have a bill in to get $5 million put to them, let loose to them, so that they can hire more caseworkers. That's going to help.
That's not the answer.
No,
right.
that's not the problem.
Right. So That's kind of how they turn it around. And then actually I don't remember who said what, but one of them admitted to us that DCS came in and did a presentation to the Children and Family Committee, and they were kind of like, well, like we need more workers, but we can't really find good workers. And and honestly, if they would have been truthful, they would have said they have a really, really high turnover because it's such a crappy job when they first bring them in. And these people are not really trained to do what they want to do. And every opportunity I get, I say, you're going to have to split this agency up. You need 2 separate agencies. The prosecution team agency needs to be totally distinct and totally separate from the agency that's serving families. Okay, can y'all hear us? It's really noisy in here. Somebody, I guess you can hear us because some people are making comments, but I had to set the phone back just a little bit so we can all 3 get in here.
Well, you remember the same lady that said that about bringing in more people and they don't know if that's going to help it. She says, but they're having a problem with them, no matter how many people they have a problem with them letting go, turning their caseloads loose.
Yeah. Well, and I said, like one problem they've got is caseworkers are sitting in the courtroom, and they're like, well, maybe they need to sit in the courtroom if they have a case. I'm like, they have attorneys. They do not need to be in the courtroom. I said in one case, and I'll give a shout out to a client of mine here, but basically I said in one case there were 3 DCS caseworkers sitting in the courtroom, and one of them was filing her nails. So I think that she probably wasn't needed for the hearing, and they're wasting their time in the court when they need to be focused on helping families. They do not need to be in the courtroom. DCS brings them in there like, well, this is our agency representative. It's like, you don't need an agency representative. I mean, you have the attorneys for state agencies like Department of Transportation, Department of Safety, licensure departments. I mean, they have hearings all the time, and they don't have a quote-unquote agency representative. I mean, that's an easy gig. I mean, that's sitting in the courtroom doing nothing but sitting on your butt filing your nails. So, of course, who's not going to want to do that? So,
I need that job.
yeah, exactly. And they're like, well, we're trying to pass a law that they would have a lower caseload. And I'm like, no, you don't need to be giving them any benefit until you do a full audit. You need to do a full, complete audit. How many cases they have, how much time they spend with their cases, how much time they sit in the courtroom. There's names at my office. So anyway, they need to be totally audited. All right, so we talked to Iris Rudder. We talked a little bit to... That's okay. We got a baby with us today. Yeah. So we talked a little bit to Jason Potts personally. We talked to Iris Rudder quite a bit. We talked to John DeBerry. Who else did we talk to today? Is that it? The ones we actually sat down on?
Littleton.
Oh, we kind of talked, we face-to-face with Littleton just very briefly, and then a couple others we just talked to their assistant. But, once they've seen you a couple times, they remember who you are. So, they see me.
Come up here. You don't have to be a professional.
Right.
You can come with us. We're trying to come on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Connie's been an excellent educator. You don't even really have to talk. I'm not saying don't come and don't do anything, but come with us. Just show your face. Let your face be shown. Let them see the numbers that are affected by this. And, hiring more social workers is not the answer. Monitoring, seeing what the motives are behind these social workers and their supervisors. We want to sit here and blame it all on the social workers, but it's probably their supervisors that are mandating that they drag this out and keep children in the system or take children without cause. But come up here and help us fight this battle. We're just not getting
numbers
started.
is important, Ryan. We're trying to reserve tables up here. If we can't do it every week, we're going to at least do it every other week. We're going to come every week, but we're going to try to reserve the tables as much as we can and have a flyer out and start giving out information.
And once we get enough people coming up here and they see our numbers, we'll get Connie on national TV because this isn't just a Tennessee problem. It's across the United States, we know.
And really, I mean, some state is going to have to step up and be the model. I mean, some state is going to have to say, okay, we're going to take this serious. We're going to look at the entire system. We're going to make some dramatic changes that's going to change the whole paradigm of child welfare. Some states going to have to do that because all we're doing is basically nickel and diming it. We're putting a Band-Aid on this, a Band-Aid on that, and it's just making it worse and worse. And then they put these stupid little laws out there that DCS comes down and lobbies for. Like, as I've told you before, this year they're trying to criminalize parents if their kids are taken out of school when there's a DCS investigation. Well, the reason that's happening, and DCS probably created that law because, they start some wild investigation and then somebody takes their kids out and homeschools them. Yeah. Well, if you weren't such a bunch of Nazis, that wouldn't be happening. So, so it's like criminalizing parents for that. They're also criminalizing moms who have drug exposure while they're pregnant. Well, I understand that drug exposure while you're pregnant is not a good thing, but there are instances where a mom has maybe one positive test for an opioid during her pregnancy, and if they do this and pass this law, that even though she's clean and the baby's clean at birth, they still might be able to criminalize her, and this is just like not the right approach. So when I put this package together for the legislators, we had talked about drug issues when I was up here the last time. So one of the things I did was I pulled the November 2017 presidential report on the opioid crisis, and I pulled the letter that was written by Governor Chris Christie, who talked about only 10% of the people. The studies show that only 10% of the people who need substance abuse treatment are getting it in the U.S. So, and there's tons of money. I mean, this report shows the billions of dollars of our tax dollars that's going into that. There are lots of parents who are losing their kids over substance abuse and not getting the proper treatment. And, I know you can't raise your kids and be an addict. I mean, I say all the time, you use, you choose, you lose. But, there are addicts who recover.
I think it was great too when Jeremy brought up that, or actually it wasn't Jeremy that brought up, when children are brought into foster care, they're medicated.
Right.
So horrifically. And so they want to sit here and band a mother because maybe she failed a test one time or is getting help.
Yeah.
A situation in Cumberland County.
Yeah.
A girl had been recovered for a year, fell short one time, called to get the help because she noticed that she did not want to go down that road. And so they took her kids.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you're familiar with that case as of this point, but they take the kids and put them in foster care, and they're medicating them in there too.
Yeah, and I didn't even cover that in this report I did for them. I mean, some of the questions they asked me were that I had said during my statement that 85% of the children are removed for neglect and not because of child or physical abuse or sexual abuse. So they wanted to know where I got that number. So I pulled the AFCAR reports and gave them that. I gave them the numbers on the comparison of Title IV-E and Title IV-B so they could see the real numbers there. I also printed off, I made a comment in there that there's no oversight. Families have no resource for telling their stories and getting reports. And I made a comment in there that, families are turning to the internet. They're turning to media, internet media. They're turning to YouTube. They're turning to Facebook to tell their stories because they don't have any place else to tell them. And, the Citizens Review Board, which is money under Title IV-E, to provide for reports from the public as to whether or not the Title IV-E monies are being used properly, is being abused. So, and you know why? Because the Citizens Review Board is being operated by the agency that is supposed to be overseeing. So, what do they say? The fox watching the hen house ain't never going to work, right? Never going to work. So we talked about oversight. So I always talk, whenever I get a chance to open my mouth, I talk about the agency has to be split up. I talk about the imbalance of the Title IV-E and the Title IV-B money. I talk about the oversight. Those are huge, huge, huge. and it's like, do you have a bill? And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? It's like the whole thing needs to be redone, and until you take that serious, it's not going to happen. Also, as you all know, that a lot of times when I do my lives or I do posts, I always say that, my prayer for the child welfare reform is prepare me, join me, and defend me. And so, oh my gosh, sure enough, we're sitting in somebody's office today, and this woman, who's a total stranger to me, reaches over and she goes, "Oh, are you the attorney?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard her.
She's like, "Oh, are you the attorney?" I'm like, I hadn't even said my name
Right.
yet, right? And so she said, she started talking to me. She said that she found one of my videos about me going after DCS or something 3 or 4 years ago, and that she had adult daughter with some disabilities, and how she was trying to work on disabilities. And so she gave me her card. I said, I'm having a huge issue with disabilities with families in the child welfare system. So, it just, join me. You've got to find people. You've got to talk the talk and walk the walk. So that's the only way things are going to change, because otherwise, you know what? They've got people up here talking about, oh my gosh, everything, right?
Animals today. They were talking
Animals.
about some kind of veterinary medicine stuff.
Raises on the
Pay
campus.
raises.
Yes.
They had like campus workers. They had
Moms against gun
forestry.
gun violence,
Yeah,
forestry. I mean, oh my gosh, the trees are more important than our kids,
Yeah.
right? So, so they got lots of people up here, like knocking on their doors, walking in. They like faces. They like to see the people of Tennessee that they're representing. It's so much different than Washington, D.C. And I mean, I've been to D.C. now about 3 times, and a couple of those times we've done our marches and our protests and stuff, but I've used a couple of those times to walk in the offices up there, and oh my gosh, they've never got time for you, okay? So if you ever even get a minute to talk to an assistant, you might get that, but most of the time even they won't do it if you haven't set a pre-appointment. So and they just really up there, they're so clueless. They're so focused on immigration and walls and nuclear bombs. And even though they're dishing out $10 billion a year on this, they really could care less. So we've got to make the states the focus. You've got to make the states a focus, because if we get a state who's interested in saying we want a better system, then if it takes a change in the funding system in DC is going to change it. It's going to be the state people, and I know I've talked to Senator Alan Clark in Arkansas about this, and he cut the checkbook off for his state agency when they wouldn't answer his questions. I don't know if there's anybody going to be brave enough, but I think I'm just going to have to start throwing that out there to our guys and just say, call Senator Clark in Arkansas. He turned the checkbook off, and
Right.
Then they decided they'd talk to him.
Because who's over who?
Exactly. The legislators control the checkbook. So, and I asked him, I'm like, well, if we can get just a handful of states that really want change, and there's a problem with the federal government, would you be willing to be part of that committee that would go to the federal government and affect some of that change in the funding? And he said for sure he would. So, we've got to, sort of circle the wagons, so to speak, and get empathetic ears. At the state level, these people hear from their constituents. They know it's a problem. Every one of them says that, right?
They just don't know what to do about it. And
Yeah.
I sometimes am discouraged because unless we stay after them and they see more people coming out against this, I don't know if they're really going to be spurred enough to actually figure out. Some of them don't even know what Title IV money is, and they don't have. It's almost sad that they're kind of clueless
And
I don't wanna say
uneducated.
uneducated, but
It is uneducated.
yeah, you would think if they're making these decisions for all this stuff, they at least know what this stuff is, and they don't.
Yeah, they really don't, and that's why they need education. And then I'll also throw out there, Marie and Sarah were talking about the courts and the problems they were having with the judges and the ex parte orders, which is so horrible. And, and they're kind of like, well, what can we do about that? And I always, oh my gosh, I love to tell them this, because none of them know it. They have no idea how much power they have.
And I just learned today.
Yeah, they have no idea. I'm going to tell you, I've told John Gentry about this. I've told everybody about this. I started coming down here in 2010, which, of course, we have a whole new batch of representatives and stuff. Now, many of them were not here then, but I'm like, read Article 6 of the Tennessee Constitution. You do not have to impeach a judge. All you have to do is remove him. All you have to do is file a petition to remove a judge, give him 10 days notice, have a joint hearing, invite that judge down here to answer your questions, and if you believe they have violated their oath or they have violated the law, you can remove them. You can remove them.
Yes.
Now, I will tell you there is some question in the Constitution. This is really going to mess with your head here, but there is some question in the Constitution as to at what point does their pay get cut off. Because they can, there's this whole thing about their pay cannot be changed during the term of their office, but if they're removed, the term of their office is over. So they have the power to remove under Article 6.
Wow.
Article 6, read that. The legislators have the power to remove a judge.
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, in Nashville, we just had an article come out in the Tennessean today. Somebody sent me the link, and I understand it's going to be on Channel 4 either tonight or tomorrow night about judges local to us here in Nashville area that have been busted for making trips to Costa Rica and getting prostitutes and smoking marijuana. With defense attorneys, and of course we all know it's probably bigger than that, but I get all trashed by ethics boards about going on YouTube and doing lives and telling the truth,
doing the right thing.
telling the truth about what's going on, and they're like, oh my gosh, you spoke badly about a judge. Well, you know what, get it together and get rid of him.
Right.
Just get rid of him. So
Once the people realize that we can rise up and we can make a change, that's when you're going to start seeing changes. If you don't want to take that stand, then don't argue about it anymore. Just
Exactly.
hush.
And I want to challenge anybody on Connie Reguli's site.
Reguli,
Sorry.
Shelley says that.
If you are in the Tennessee area and you want to come here, you might be scared. You might be nervous. Like, I've taken people through 5Ks that I can't do 3.1 miles, and held their hand and showed them they can. This is no different. If you want to come here and you want to show your face and share your story, let Connie Reguli know. Regularly. I need to think she's regularly on, but anywho. She will contact Sarah and I, and we will come with you. We will hold your hand. We will give you the experience, because once you do it the first time,
We don't
you
really
realize
know
these people are people.
Yeah, they
and
are.
They're uneducated until we educate them.
Right, and you'll see, like, I've been down here 4 times, and I'll pass them in the hall, and they already recognize me. And they're like, oh, hey, how are you today?
Yeah.
You're down here with Connie, right?
Yeah. So what you've got stories and you've got law, okay? They want to know how the law that they're writing is affecting people's lives.
Yes.
I mean, that's their job. So, and the comment was made in there, it's like, y'all are passing laws and the judicial branch is not following those laws.
Right.
So they want to know about the stories, and they want to know how the laws that they're writing are affecting the lives of people. And yet the hallways of this place are just full of people who are I'm trying to look at that person and see if there's a little TV monitor up here and there's somebody on it. So anyway,
Come join us. Make a difference.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
There's
power in numbers.
Yeah, and Suzanne, I am so anxious, so excited to have a conversation with you. So we're going to work that out, girl. Just don't give up on me.
And if you don't want to talk, sit at the table and hand out information.
Yeah, if you can write your story and put a picture